Welcome to episode number 4 of the Auto Trends podcast. Welcome, Gideon. How are you?
Lucas, man. Good, doing well, doing
Good.
good. How's everything going? It's good to see you again. Time flies, the
Yes,
days are going by quick, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're in the warehouse today, as you can see behind us. I got the factory up and going the other episode. Now we're back in the warehouse. Things are
Yep.
moving,
All
which is
about the
good.
pick, pack, and ship, pick, pack, and deliver, man. Everything is about the warehouse distributor. And
Exactly.
today we are going to go really deep in the importance of the warehouse distributor. Obviously, subscribers, listeners, there's varying degrees of experience on what the purpose of a warehouse distributor is. I think historically we've seen, manufacturers try to cut out the warehouse distributor, but today we're going to go really deep and really hard into how WDs are not going away. They are the backbone of the business, of the industry. And if you're a manufacturer, you're an eTailer, you're a retailer, how do you leverage that to find next level growth? How do you leverage that to be a differentiator? How do you leverage the warehouse distributors presence, what right,
Exactly.
their all of their
Exactly.
locations and what they do, their expertise. I think a lot of manufacturers have missed on this, purely not allowing technology to leverage distributors in our automotive parts world to be really effective. But I think that's changing, and we're seeing it change, and it's an exciting time to understand and grow with this side of the business. So we're happy to dive in today.
No, exactly, Gideon. I think, like you and I were talking, we kind of think there's 4 big differentiators between these WDs right now. I think you've got to look at their location, their brand depth, their pricing, their tech adoption. I think those are the big 4 that you really have to evaluate to get a good distributor, or to differentiate a good distributor from a mediocre one, to a poor one. But those are the 4 things. So the location, the brand depth, the price, and their adoption to the newest technology. Those
100%.
are the,
That's yeah, and that was kind of what we were discussing, like what makes a good distributor. Um,
yeah,
so if you think of yourself as a manufacturer and you're running an e-commerce program, historically today, no manufacturers are through technology routing orders into WDs. There's a ton of blockers. There's fragmentation all over the place. How do you get two separate organizations with two separate objectives to talk to each other? That's one major blocker. And I think when you look at a distributor, their brand depth. So if you're an e-tailer and you're looking for more lines, more options for your customers, how do you select a good distributor? Can you use more than one? Right? I
exactly,
think
exactly,
that's a big part. Can you use more than one? Um,
exactly.
and then I think the other piece is price. Price is important. Now, just so our subscribers listen, I come from a really deep background in the distribution piece. That's actually where I got my start in this industry, which who would have ever thought? It was a crash course on the industry and all of the issues that were just blaring in front of my face. And it just set me on on a passion for this industry, to evolve it, to develop it, and grow it, ultimately for the manufacturers, distributors, and their end consumers. And then
Yep.
lastly, kind of to your point, Lucas, is the tech adoption. Most distributors, if you look at their tech stack, it's all point solutions. So why do they do this? Because they have a problem in their business. So they just solution to that to make them better. Well, if you
Exactly.
have 200, 300 different distributors, they're all different in that world of what is their technology. Some of them don't have any capabilities, right?
Exactly.
Um, and some of them have do. So I think those are the 4 differentiators, and we'll dive into them. But
Yep.
I certainly think when we look at e-commerce, without a distributor, we're dead in the water. And so
Exactly.
that's a very important piece as we move forward.
And I think, you'd probably agree, the question that we get most asked to us, or comments, emails from the podcast, even that we've done so far, is, right, I'm an e-tailer. Am I able to connect more than one distributor? How do I know these inventory levels? How do I manage shipping, from these, different WDs? How is that order routing, managed? Is it manual? Is it automatic? Or how do I know which warehouse to go through? Which, manufacturer, distributor rather, are my orders going to route through? And I think that's a big technological, big tech question that we always seem to get. And what do you typically tell them, Gideon, when you get those questions? If you say, should I have multiple? Should I be just dealing with one WD? Or should I have 5 WDs or 2 WDs? What's typically your response when people ask you that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's so common. And I think that that's been a major gap in our industry. Like, who do I use? Okay, I have a relationship with this distributor. Well, why? Well, because that's who I called. It goes back to your technology, your stack, right? Are you building on a specialized industry technology stack, or are you building on a generalized tech stack? And I think it was episode maybe 2 that we hit on how to select a platform and platforms that you should use. And when you look at a platform, you want them to have a technology roadmap that's connecting directly into distributors and giving you options, right? Because as an e-tailer, what's the prime profile of an e-tailer? Typically, they're small businesses, right?
Yep.
They could be much larger. And so you need a tech stack that connects in. So when you think of a distributor, it goes back to the tech stack you're building your e-commerce program on. Does it give you connectivity seamlessly into your distributions of choice? We have plenty of options, and every distributor is at a different point in, say, where they're at. They all want to grow e-commerce, by the way. Every distributor wants to grow e-commerce. So there's the ambition is there, but they're not tech companies. A distributor sells shelf space. They sell $1 million inventory file, a $5 million, they sell availability and the ability to pick, pack, ship in a very effective and very efficient rate. Yep. So as a retailer, right, think of, okay, I'm going to build on a technology. And I know we've talked about a lot of them, but best in class and who's doing it the best in our industry is Revolution Parts. Yep. Why? What we have seen and what we have found is their tech stack is industry focused. So every single year they're building specific to our industry. Distributors are within their ecosystem, allow you to go direct to consumer or even run a wholesale program. When orders come in, orders are created and it's going out to your distribution centers, right? They're then pick, pack, shipping, right? So when you select a really good distributor, you go back to the 4 areas that we hit on. How many locations can I tie up with one swipe? What's their brand depth? Is it gonna support the niche that I'm in? Do they stock all those product lines? The price, and I don't want to make this about price because I've been in so many meetings from a distributor's perspective. They go, everything's about price. Yep. And that becomes just like mind numbing. Everything's about price. Okay, well, what's the value of the relationship? Okay, exactly. Got to drop our drawers on price again just so we can make another $1 million, whatever. And then the tech adoption, right? Is that distributor tech savvy, but also can you help them with technology? So those are the things that I would push for. And then from a technology that you build on, can they support multiple WDs to show you price, show you inventory levels, to where now you as a business owner can make that decision? And I'll take it one step further. Manufacturers, this is a critical point, I think, in our industry. Manufacturers historically have not gone direct to consumer. Why? Well, let's look at the historical process of our industry. In the 90s, it was all B2B, right? Manufacturers were selling to distributors. Distributors were selling to technicians and repair shops and jobbers. So everything was B2B. Neither of them wanted to go direct to consumer because they didn't want to ruffle the feathers of their customer base.
Yep.
Well, what popped up in late 90s? What popped up that everyone knows today? RockAuto.com.
Rock Auto. Yep.
Amazon. Yep. Right? Yep. I was a part of being a very first partner with Amazon's in their automotive division. And the running joke on that was, if we just invested $100,000 in Amazon stock, we would have made
Right.
far more money than doing
Right.
hundreds of $1 millions at very, very, very low to no
Of course.
margins of business.
Of course. Yeah. 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 No. Of
That's a
course.
problem.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. And I think the other question that we get a whole lot is from e-tailers just starting out or retailers is how do we connect into these WDs? Is this a big monumentous, effort that we've got to put in or, is there people that can connect? Let's say you're a small e-tailer and you say, geez, I don't have any relationship with these WDs. How am I starting from ground zero supposed to, form some sort of relationship with these WDs so I can get these parts on my platform. I can't, I'm nobody to these guys. How am I going to possibly call and ask these guys to go on, be part of my platform? I think that's the other question that we get, and that's a fairly simple answer that maybe, again, you can further expand on, but that's not a monumentous effort. With some of these platforms either, they completely help you and streamline that process. It's not you having to call these WDs directly yourself. There's already pre-established platforms with these connections that simply connect you and get it all set up with catalogs.
I that that's a golden point because if you think of it as an e-tailer, you want to grow the business. You don't want to have to hire an architect, an engineer,
Exactly.
an integration
Exactly.
specialist. How do we integrate into WDA? WDA? How do we integrate to the parts house? How do we integrate to PA, F&PA? All your big players. That's monumental. Good luck getting through. Maybe you will, but
Exactly.
then you have to prove to them I've got the cojones and the guts and fortitude and the pockets to establish this API integration. Is it
Yep.
possible? Of course, anything's possible. Of course,
Sure.
but it's very monumental. And next thing you know, as an e-tailer, you're hundreds of thousands of dollars in before you've even sold a part.
Yep.
That's like, well, okay, well, what's the value of this? Like, well, should we just move on to something else? And when you think of manufacturers, their primarily goal and objective in the industry is to manufacture really high quality parts, right? They're not technology companies. So
Yep.
when you think of your platform and how you're using it, it's all related to what tech stack you're building on. And I don't want to go back to who's leading the industry, but Revolution Parts is doing a phenomenal job of giving you that seamless integration. And whether you're a manufacturer, you build on their platform, whether you're an e-tailer, they get you have that seamless connectivity for virtually such a low risk, right?
Yep.
They've,
Yep.
that's what they do. They invest in the technology. And I think when we talk about distributors, that's really the main focus is how do you select them? Why? And I think this is another good point that we can pivot to is how did we get to where we are, right? So, and I know I touched on it a little while ago. If you just look at the historical context, you have your manufacturer selling to distributors in the 80s and 90s, right? That was a very long relationship for manufacturers to establish themselves.
Yep.
As that evolved, both businesses were for our industry, but they were primarily all B2B. They were all wholesale. None of them
Right.
sold to the consumer. Well,
Yep.
as you know, Lucas, you turn on your cars, right? You do things in your own shop, and you're also a buyer, but you don't have an established account or relationship with manufacturers or distributors to like go buy products at wholesale.
Of course.
So you're either going to your retailers or you're searching online, right? And what you're doing, what happened inside in our industry is that's when the rocks and the car IDs and they became, a much bigger presence because clearly there was a very large need for consumers looking for parts for their vehicle that didn't have a relationship with a distributor. They were not a technician. And so they began to search. So what happened now, right? So who's fulfilling the product from our e-tailers? The rocks, those guys, the distributors, right? So
Yep.
the e-tailers primarily have become the technology muscle within our industry. But you know the difference between a small e-tailer wanting to grow and an e-tailer established like a Rock is they're built on their own platform. So e-tailers, although they're technology companies, they don't sell technology. They
Yep.
make money from selling products. But when you begin to look at how are we leveling the playing field? What's happening to level the playing field? Because there's a couple of e-tailers that have a lot of power, right?
Hmm.
But how do we level the playing field? It's through platforms specifically for our industry that are built for the industry, roadmap for the industry that can allow this small guy to come on, pack a punch, right? I think we've said it, small but mighty,
Yeah. No, exactly.
and deliver
And
big results.
what do you think, Gideon? What's I know what I tell them, but what would be your number one piece of advice when you get an e-tailer that comes to you and say, Gideon, I want to start an online parts e-commerce store, and I'm looking for an e-tailer, or several, or sorry, not an e-tailer, a WD. What's the number one or number two things that I should look for in having a really, really strong distribution partner that's going to support my business? What are the number one or two things that, pieces of advice that you could give to them?
Yeah, so great question. The number one piece of advice, if you are an e-tailer or manufacturer, is technology is scary, right? It's
Yep.
scary. Look at historically what technology has done to businesses cost overruns, right? They say, "Oh yeah, we can deliver it," but it doesn't deliver. Next thing you know, you're multi millions of dollars of overruns. You're like, "Oh God, what the hell did we even get ourselves into?" Is risk.
Yep.
First and foremost, if you are a manufacturer and you're building an e-commerce program, is look at risk. You want low risk with the most upside possible. You don't want the
Hmm.
high risk and high upside. That's just a sales job, right? You want so
Yep.
that's the biggest thing is make sure that your risk is protected and make sure you're looking at, 12, 36-month type contracts. You don't want a 2-month contract because, well, you're not going to be successful in 2 months. And so
Yep.
that's the first piece is when you begin to look at it, make sure your risks are protected. First and foremost. The
Yep.
second piece is when you look at building strong distribution partners, you want seamless connectivity. If
Right.
you're having to manually be moving things around and they're really not wanting to work with you from your technology, they're probably not a good partner, right?
Yep.
So you really want that to be seamless. You want your technology platform to be able to support your vision, support your mission. And then when you look at the distribution partner, are they good partners? Meaning, are they shipping products within 24 hours? Are they hitting their SLAs? Are they giving you locations across the country? You
Hmm.
all,
Yeah.
like more about this. I mean, if I buy a part, I'm in Florida. If I buy a part in Florida and it's coming from California, that's a missed opportunity. I want the
Absolutely.
facility right in Florida to ship me that part versus the. So, as a distributor, look at what is their landscape, right? Are they only
Yep.
in the West Coast? Well, maybe they're not a great partner. Are they only? But you can have
Exactly.
if you have two partners in the East and West, then you're cooking. And then it's just
Shipping is a major factor, though, isn't it? Shipping is a major factor. And then that's where, costs can get very, very high. Like you say, if you don't have that good partner with multiple locations across the geographical area that you're covering, that can get messy in a hurry. So you're absolutely right on that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's shipping. I mean, what we're doing today, right? We want products to be coming from the local distributor, right? We don't want something
Yep.
coming across country, and nor do they. That's the thing is, nor do they.
That's right.
Um, and I think also probably an overlooked item here from a distributor partner as a manufacturer, as an e-tailer, and we're going to do a whole episode on actually manufacturers and how you can grow your sales on a distribution center organically. And we're going to, we may touch a little bit on that today, but we're going to do a whole episode on if you're a distributor, I mean, if you're a manufacturer, how do you grow shelf space on a distribution center without
Yep.
adding sales reps? We're going to touch on that. That'll be a whole nother episode on itself.
Yep.
Um, but I think, the one thing that's overlooked as a distributor, if let's just say you're an e-tailer, you're looking to build out an e-commerce program, maybe you already had one, maybe you're looking at growing, is what's my brand strategy, right?
Right.
What's my brand strategy? And then what's the distributor's brand strategy? Like, you don't want to just always be like, well, I just sell whatever the WD sells, right? If you
Exactly.
want to have a niche program and you want to have an e-commerce program that supports, your vision and your mission, well, that distribution partner needs to be able to stock most of that line, most categories, right? Because think about it from
Yeah.
a distributor's perspective, they stock typically, they don't stock full lines. They're not going to stock the
Sure.
whole Moog line. They're not going to stock the whole Denzel. They're going to stock items that are moving and they're selling.
Yep.
So, when you're looking at distribution partners, that's a big part of, are they adopting that full catalog and that whole brand strategy? And then you just align based on your needs, and then your technology supports it. They obviously could support the technology, and you go from there.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's such a key part. And even just to kind of expand a little bit on the shipping aspect, there's a lot of e-tailers that we're seeing that are even profiting, using their shipping methods, I believe, as a profit parallel to their actual sales, which is kind of interesting as well.
No doubt. I think that's actually an overlooked topic. I think people have overlooked that a lot.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I know for certain, many 15 to 20 plus $1 million e-tailer retailers, right? They stock some product and they parse a lot out, to where their shipping is actually supporting and paying for their infrastructure. It's paying
Yep.
for their technology, and they're looking at it as a profit center. So if you're not taking shipping and you're not looking at it, how can I basically take the items that I'm selling and create a profit center? If you're not doing that, um, and you're constantly eating money and you're shipping, I would actually
Yep.
go back to your distribution partner, because they probably are not providing you adequate geographic presence that can support your business. You're constantly shipping cross country, and that drives
Yep.
up costs. So, again, it goes back to your platform and what you're built on. If it's a lot of manual work, if you're constantly struggling to, we got to do this, integration, we got to do pull this, everything's manual and it's not built, then that just means that the tech stack's not built for the industry. And you're losing money on shipping, but you're like, well, but we got another customer. Yeah, you got another
Right.
customer, but you actually want every touch inside your org through technology to be a profitable touch.
Yes.
If you're losing money on touches at scale, you're actually underwater
Yes.
potentially. So I think
Yep.
that those are some big parts of it.
Yep. And we even hear, I think, a lot of e-tailers talking to us and saying, look, guys, we're highly successful. And you look at their numbers and you say, wow, you're really successful with what you're doing. But yet you look at their numbers, their pricing, they're not by far the cheapest in the market. They're not the least expensive. They're just offering amazing customer service with very strong branding, very strong marketing, but a very seamless system for their customers. So their customers are happy to pay that little bit extra, by going through their platform because they know that they're receiving this top quality customer service. The whole technology aspect is very, very streamlined. You go to their website, they make it very easy to go on there, find the part that they're looking for. The payment gateway works seamlessly. The shipping is done within, 24 hours. They're getting the product fast. And they say, yeah, we're not trying to be the bottom of the barrel in terms of pricing. We're just trying to be the best, in terms of customer service and in terms of the products. Yeah, we're not interested in competing to the bottom, in terms of price. And that's really interesting. But I think too many people get caught up and say, oh, geez, it's going to be $1 or $2 or something cheaper over on this side. We can't compete. Well, you can in other aspects. I think that's important to
Well, and it
remember.
goes it goes back to this, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion. If your strategy is to sell marketplaces on a marketplace and have a break even to say, oh, we're gaining brand recognition. No, you're not. You're not gaining
Yep.
brand recognition. You're not gaining anything. You're maybe gaining a sale, but you're gaining a headache.
Yep.
Um, sure, is it a necessary evil? Yes. But to your point, it goes, I mean, you've owned many businesses, Lucas. You've been in the game a
Hmm.
long time. And it's not all about price. I'm sorry.
No.
It's
No.
not. Customer service, right? I buy products all the time that are not the cheapest. And as I've gotten older and I get nagged by my wife probably more than I ask to, I start to buy products that are certainly more expensive,
Yep.
but there's customer servicing and there's so many things that, me back in my old, bird brain of a younger guy would have been like, nah, I'm
Yep.
going with the cheapest option. I don't give a shit. Right.
Exactly.
Um,
Yep.
but so it's certainly not. And it's the same holds true for automotive. Um, I think, this is probably a weird kind of case, but I think they've done a fairly good job. But the industry's certainly been pained by them. Is rock, right? They started very
Yep.
very young in the late 90s, and they actually started on eBay, and they grew, and then well, what did they do? They moved their business off eBay, and so that's going to just kind of be a really telling story. I mean, it's here. I go back and look at history, man. Look at the
Yep.
historical evolution of our industry and how things have become what they are. But what they're doing that's really poor, I think, for our industry is they're pitting WDs against each other, right? And everything becomes a race to the bottom.
Yep.
And then, another area, and I've heard it many times in many meetings with manufacturers, is that like if a manufacturer makes a decision around direct consumer potentially that rock threatens them, they threaten to pull their products, right? Well, that's not really being a steward of the industry.
Yep.
So
Yep.
now we have distribution partners that have built a big online business, but the margin is just margin erosion to the max.
Yep.
Manufacturers are trying to create more margin for their distributors, but their online outlets are just completely malfunctioning at every level. That right, not
Yep.
adhering to MAP pricing, minimum advertised price. That's to protect margin of the manufacturer and the distributor, et cetera. And then when you look at manufacturers, the bigger you are, and let's say the more market share you have, and if my guess is large majority of it runs through the handful of eTailers out there that are basically technology companies, but they're selling products. If they can't make decisions based on what their business needs are, well, what kind of steward are you of the industry, right? And I think
Exactly.
distributors are continually to take notice of that. I mean, they know it. I've said in many manufacturer meetings where they're like, yeah, well, we put together a price because the complaint was from our distribution partners that there's no margin, right? Which large majority of the bulk of that no margin business is probably going through one of the guys that I just mentioned. And then when you look at, okay, they say, well, yeah, we basically have built out a new price model to make sure that distributors are, cost plus a manageable margin.
Yep.
And literally, like within weeks, everything's just boom, drop to the bottom. So
Yep.
manufacturer decisions are completely irrelevant. And I think when you look at the model of the distribution partner and as a manufacturer, the model's changing. I mean, it's
Yep.
changing. It's
Yep.
evolving, and
Yep.
manufacturers are they're already taking action to move in a direct to consumer format, and then they send the demand generation to their distribution partners. Well, what
Yep.
happens in that model? That model is very different than the current model, meaning it's the model of with two people's best interests, three people's actually: manufacturer, distributor, and the end consumer, right? The end consumer now is buying that product from the manufacturer with a very high level of confidence. And they're okay paying maybe a little more, maybe not. But what we're doing is we're protecting margins. We're going from a three-step distribution through technology to two-step manufacturer and distributor. They become closer. And now I know I alluded it to, we'll do a whole episode on this, but now if you're a manufacturer and you're generating $100 million, or I don't know, let's just say $10 million in online sales, but you're dropping that off at the doorstep of your distribution partner,
Yep.
that distribution partner is selling product at a great margin with no work.
Yep.
Nobody's
Yep.
having to hire new
Exactly.
sales guys. And then what does the manufacturer do? They go back to the distributor and they say, look, we've generated $10 million in sales. You've only fulfilled $1 million in sales, but these 10 million all were shipped into your market. we recommend you stock X. And so what you're
Yep.
doing is you're making very sound decisions through technology. You're making very sound tech decisions through the best interest of your partners and the end consumer. And then the
Yep.
last piece is that consumer data. The consumer data lives with the manufacturer, which
Yes.
you know as well as I do, person with the consumer data wins.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. No, I think there's, obviously your depth, your knowledge on this subject is, incredible. You've got incredible depth. So anybody who's listening right now, whether you're a manufacturer or whether you're an e-tailer, reach out to us. And, particularly Gideon, even on LinkedIn, or, connect with if you have any questions, in the space whatsoever. And we're happy to help you navigate, because I know even when I first started looking into this years ago, it's intimidating if you don't understand the distributor part of it. It can be very, very intimidating, because again, the small guy just says, well, who the heck am I, to try and compete with these big guys, or who am I to call these guys and form a relationship? But there's many, many different ways of doing it, platforms that'll take care of everything for you. So again, reach out to us if you're on the manufacturing end or e-tailing end, and we've got some great contacts that we can put you in touch with,
Yeah,
and to help
Lucas,
you with that.
and I think we're here for the industry, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we were planning in the 2023, with Auto Trends and getting excited about it. I mean, our objective, we have a very simple objective. We're here for the industry. We're here to see it move forward. We're here to make sure that manufacturers are winning, distributors are winning, and resellers and e-tailers are winning. And the most important part is our end consumer is winning. Um,
Exactly.
Getting them up on the road. I love what we do because we work for the working class.
Yep.
We work for people they're trying to make a living, man. And the last thing
Exactly.
they need is they don't need getting locked up. They need to get the part they need on their vehicle. But and to your point, Lucas, like to our listeners, our subscribers, reach out. I mean, we're
Yep.
very open guys, man. Like we're here for the industry, and we want to have the best interest, and if we can share our expertise and knowledge, we happily will. And then lastly, if you're a manufacturer, if you're an e-tailer, if you're someone in the business and you bring an enormous amount of value or insights into a particular topic, and you want to kind of get your word and your message out to the automotive community, reach out to us. You've got our email on the below, info@autotrendsam.com. Reach out to us. We'd love
Exactly.
to have you on, and just explore these topics. We have a lot of fun doing it. So anything else, Lucas?
Absolutely. We've got some exciting news that will probably be dropping, I would say, next week in terms of upcoming guests. We'll do some teasers, but yeah, stay tuned to all of our channels on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, because we do have some incredible guests coming up in towards the end of this month. I think we're going to have one of them for sure scheduled now in February, but definitely March is jam packed full. April is now jam packed full, and I think we're looking to start, I think, into May now. We've had an incredible response back, from you guys, the listeners, people wanting to be on the show, share their knowledge, share their experience, which is again what we want. So thank you to all of them. But we'll start dropping some hints. Some big names are coming on, and make sure you tune in, because they're going to have some great advice that maybe can take your business to the next level.
Yep, absolutely, Lucas. Well, hey, man, it has been awesome. It's been great. We got to get back to work and pick, pack, and ship to get these products
Absolutely.
out to our customers. So I got work to do. Anything else on your end?
No, that's it. That's great,
We're
Gideon.
out of
Thank
here.
you again. All right. See you guys.